in his work. Eminem's supposedly true story was shown in the movie 8 Mile, and it kind of continues to create mythology about abuse of men. His success has unleashed a torrent of mother-blaming and has elevated an art form of practice of verbally bullying and degrading people, especially women and gays, and then claiming I was just joking around. Eminem's rebel image obscures the fact that sexism and men's violence against women perpetuates established male power. It's not rebellious, so it's just kind of normal. It's not necessarily out of the norm. And so as I talk about that, the reason why I bring that up is because teamed up with a female singer, Rihanna, Eminem has recently been at the top of the charts, the top of the Billboard charts. This song, a duet that he did with Rihanna, they were somewhat, I suppose, orchestrated to do this song together about domestic violence. Rihanna had been a victim of domestic violence. She had a very public court case in the news about the domestic violence case with her partner, Chris Brown, and Eminem had been charged in 2002 against domestic violence against his wife. And so somehow in all of that we're supposed to pick up that they're just the two people to sing the song, and yet what has happened is that domestic violence looks romantic. That somehow through what you're looking at in the video and what the lyrics are, it's like somehow even though this young man continues to abuse this young woman, she allows him, and that's okay. Now I've put up just a little bit of the song, and some of it is not terribly savory, but just talking about this issue in such a blatant way, and then basically he's going to lie again, and he'll do this again, and she continues to echo, but I like the way you lie, kind of thing. So I'm happy in this relationship. And when I think about young people who have, now probably many of you here would say, you have to run out to buy the latest M&M album. That's not, you're not your demographic. But my concern is in young people, the types of things that become popular with them and the types of presuppositions that they're taking from that. So just when I created this presentation about 3 weeks ago, it had been #2 on the chart, so it is definitely popular with somebody, and young men and young women alike. Nelly Furtado, popular Canadian singer, had put out an album 2 or 3 years ago now with a song on it called Promiscuous Girl. And there often have been songs and things in the media that highlight and elevate promiscuity, but to actually say it so blatantly that basically, I am a promiscuous girl, and this is how it is, this play on words. Very, very dangerous, I believe, messages there for our young people. Thinking about other right-to-life issues like stem cell research and fertility methods, there was a book published a few years ago now, but it's been made into a movie just fairly recently, and so it was certainly back in the loop, people talking about this book and about this movie, My Sister's Keeper. And interesting to me, I am part of a book club that we choose a book once a month and read it, and we discuss it as a group, and we decide on a location, and we read this book. And it's certainly mostly Christian women that are part of this group. And when I read this line in the book, and it's all fictitious, it's a fictitious story about a little girl that's born, and her parents find out when she's a little girl she has leukemia, and the doctors recommend that they have another baby to help with the issues that their daughter with leukemia will have. So that through the placenta and those kinds of things, the stem cells, they would be able to help the other child. And so here was a quote from the book. We were not able to have babies year after year so long as a match for Kate. The doctor was able to screen several embryos to see which one, if any, would be the ideal donor for Kate. We were lucky enough to have 1 out of 4, and it was implanted through in vitro. Now, the interesting thing to me was in this group that I was part of, I asked this question. I turned to this page and I read this quote, and I said, was anybody bothered by this part of the book? And the response was, what part of the book? What are you talking about? I said, well, when you read that, like when I read that, it bothered me. But in my worldview, I thought, wow, like this isn't, you know, it was a fictitious story and it didn't really happen, but I know things like this do happen. And so just, you know, part of the whole book club process is, you know, is a discussion. And it fascinated me. I thought, wow. I hadn't thought about it when they read it at all.
After you brought it up?
Well, then everyone went, oh, okay, like, oh, I see. But it didn't pick up for them when they read it. So I thought that was interesting where the thought process was. Decent. Yeah, and it was just, you know, the overall story, which, and I got hung up on, that was like page 20 or something. I hung up on that after reading it. Greg Bitgood, who is a gentleman who works in Christian education out in British Columbia, wrote this book, Discipling This Generation for a Digital World. And he says, despite the confusion that some like to create on the questions of are embryos human beings and when did the life begin, both scientists and physicians know very well that human embryos are alive and human. Human life begins when a diploid complement of human DNA is initiated to begin human development. Therefore, a life can be initiated by the fusion of sperm and by egg and by the induction. And it goes on to describe that process. But one of the things I thought interesting about Greg Bitgood's book was one of the things that he identified are the questions that this generation will need to answer. What type of genetic alteration is acceptable to God? What safeguards do we need to place on science? Should we try to find answers to every disease? What do we do with the millions of embryos being created? Is a cloned human being made in the image of God? Should we wire our brains to computers? Does a human clone have a soul? What will the ethical issues be with cloning? Is it moral to destroy embryos to save another life? And I was very interested in his questions and thinking about the future of our young people and just realizing that as leaders in the Christian community, we need to help navigate young people answer these questions and nurture them to answers to these questions. So just in closing, it's more important than ever that we're talking counterculture on right-to-life issues. Presuppositions are being formed and a whole generation is being educated while they are being entertained. And so a lot of the talks that I do with young people is challenging them with their media choices. And just saying, you know, one of the topics that I talk about is called Read the Label, and I talk to them, engage them about food consumption and nutrition labels that we look at, and say to the kids sometimes, does your mother ever look at the nutrition label in a box of cereal in the cereal aisle and put it back and not buy it for you? And that one always seems to, oh yeah, everybody has had that happen. You know, does your mother say, that's actually sugar and candy, that's not really sugar, and put it back? You know, and it's so important that we think about nutrition, what we put into our body in that sense, then it is got to be of paramount importance what we put into our hearts and minds and what we consume in the media. And so when I go around and speak, I challenge young people to approach the media with, you know, with eyes, ears, and faith, that God would, you know, what is it that God would have us consume in this way. And so just looking at these right-to-life issues, that was very fascinating for me just to do that study on that particular issue and just seeing, you know, what our students, children, teenagers, youth, what are they being educated to within the media. I appreciate you inviting me to be here today, and certainly have enjoyed being a part of, you know, your meeting this morning, part of your meeting, and look forward to maybe, as I am sitting here thinking about our students at the Christian school who are being nurtured to this right to life mindset, really, how important